Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. So, um, Polly invites Eric to, sit down and everything, and she said that she patched things up and she forgiven her mother, and she wanted forgiving Eric also. The thing is that how this would have played out differently if we had the actual actress back on full time and we had Eric back on more of a regular basis. I can see this being drawn out a little bit longer. Okay. And I can see it playing out a little bit more better, more of an emotional scene between like her and her mother and everything like that, really kind of going back and forth with Eric and everything. But because we don't have these two, well, one, the whole lawsuit thing with Ari and Greg Vaughn, you just never really know. So they kind of had to wrap this up in a more quicker, but also it gave Holly some character growth, right? Because she realized that after her whole ordeal with Chad and Abby and everything like that about lying, and while she doesn't condone it, she understands. You know, sometimes you lie for the wrong reasons, but you're put in a very difficult position in life, and sometimes it's just better to, for better or worse, is not to sit there and say anything. So, in a sense, she kind of grew as a character. She also found out that Fiona was the one that did the whole hit and run and everything, and it wasn't Brady. So now she's like, you know. So with this version, you got character growth, and also, she realized that, hey, listen, I don't like what you did, but I understand that you're a good man, and that you did make a terrible mistake, and you did pay for it in a sense. So it's like the good outweighs the bad when it really comes down to it. But now she's sitting there wondering, will Tate forgive her? Now, I was going to sit there and save this scene for last because, well, who I have to sit there and talk about. But I'm going to do my best to not sit there and be as bitter as possible when I talk about this particular character. I guess it's a problem more with maybe me than the character itself. So there's a point where after she talks about how, she broke up, like how she never thought that she would sit there and have her friendship broken up by a guy, which I think is pathetic. There's a point where Sophia's like, well, if Holly comes back to town and she apologizes and she finds out what's going on, would you take her back? Tate's like, I don't know. And right then and there, that's a problem. As as much as I do not like Sophia, and let's be very clear, I don't like her. Nobody should be a constellation prize. And that's exactly what that sentence came across as. So she's like, no, we're not going to do this. I'm not going to sit there and be a placeholder to entertain you until Holly gets back and decides she wants to be with you. Now, Tate comes up with an answer that I don't really feel is that much more satisfactory. He's like, I don't want to hurt you. And I felt like I've been doing that. And this all spawns from a conversation where he practically said that he got the green light to like give it a go by Aaron. There could have been a much better way for him to sit there and address this, but I'm giving him some slack because he is a teenager. And the way he tries to make it seem is like, oh well, since you're cool with it, I guess it's up for grabs. So I can see how that could be offensive. And then when you add that on top of it, it's like, are you kidding me? But he's like, I don't want to hurt you. I want to sit there and take things slow. I felt like, I want to sit there and do this right with you. I don't really see a future for us, but I just want to sit there and take the time to get to know you and just kind of see where it goes. And she's like, oh, okay. And she agrees to go back to the house with him. But I'm like, taking your time and taking it slow is all fine and good and everything like that. And him sitting there saying that, we don't have a future together, that doesn't really answer the question. If she comes back in your life, are you going to sit there and inject Sophia to get back with Holly? Because that's some pretty messed up ish right there. But it's like she gained some self respect and then she took like 2 steps back by getting that lazy ass answer and just going right back to his place, like, just comes across back as desperate again. All right, who we got next? Marlena and Steve. So, long story short, Steve tells Marlena about the whole thing with her not really being Abby, her being Katharina, and then kind of just puts the pieces together, so not just saying that Katharina is, Constantine's daughter. So in reality, John didn't sit there and pull the trigger. But see, this is where it gets kind of sad in a sense. And also, somebody brought this up. I think it was Jonathan that brought this up in the chat. Bringing Katharina into this part of the story, it's it's it undermines Constantine's whole part in this because he wanted revenge, right? He wanted revenge for John killing his daughter and everything like that, and all this was for absolute nothing. All that whole story. But the sad part is that at some point Marlena does sit there and I guess talk to Eric and tells him about John and how happy he is and relieved and everything. And while that's the best that they can sit there and do, it's just kind of sad that we don't get to actually see that. We don't get to see John being emotionally unburdened by that. Because you gotta remember, he was practically ready to confess to a crime that he didn't even remember doing because he felt so guilt-ridden about it. And then he came back and he was like, okay, I made my peace. But that's not something you can really just make your peace with, especially if you don't even know if you did it or not. Then it turns out that she's alive, so, it would have been really great to see that. But unfortunately, the actor passed, so, this is just the best that they can do. So I give this part of the story a pass. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Julie and Chad. So pretty much most of this between Julie and Chad and like Marlena and Steve is pretty much playing catch up, so it kind of feels like somewhat semi filler. Um, so Chad pretty much informs her of everything that wound up going down in Paris. And, while she's angry and she's pissed off and stuff like that, for what she did to Chad, what she could have did to the children, Chad is somewhat, well, first she's honest with herself. All the signs is there, but like I've been sitting there saying, or like a lot of other people been sitting there, specifically me, is that he needed to believe that. He needed to believe that his wife was back. And he also feels guilty that, he fell in love with her that wasn't really happy and everything. So he has this whole emotional thing going on. he does, I guess, in a sense, kind of give Katharina or Kat credit for not putting the children in this whole thing and saying that somewhere along the line she had feelings for them. So it gets to a point where he tells Julie why she did it because of Clyde holding her parents hostage and everything. And on some level, I get what Julie Smith is saying because Julie's like, how can you trust what she's saying? She's been lying to you from day one. But let's think about this for a minute. You know Clyde, okay? You know Clyde. Doing something like that, blackmailing, threatening somebody's life to get what he wants is right up Clyde's alley. So part of me is like, I don't know if she should have been that sus of her, of, the truth or whatever. But he does go sit there and see Kat at the end. Now, Kat and Mark, they're worried about Aaron and Felicity. They're worried about those two. Them going to jail. Who's going to want to take care of them? They also feel guilt-ridden. Mark for almost they're killing Chad and Kat for deceiving a guy who she generally thought to have feelings for and was, a good person and, you know, just what she had to do. So the majority of that scene is just them they're talking about their guilt. Um, and like I said, she still does have feelings for him. And then towards the end, she does sit there and get a visit from Chad. And one other thing that Eric did sit there and say, because Holly was like, I don't know if he's going to forgive me. And Eric was like, well, you forgave me, which is very true. But again, I felt like she had to sit there and forgive him. And granted, maybe in time she would have wanted forgiving her mom, but it happened quicker than it would have if she was actually there. So that's kind of the good thing and the bad thing at the same time. So I give Days his props for writing it in a way where they can still move the characters forward, actually give her some character growth without Ari being there. Downside is that we don't get that emotional scene that I was talking about, but it is what it is. I think that's part of the reason why I'm liking the whole body and soul thing. Like, there's certain little cues and stuff like that that they do within that story that mirrors this show, General Hospital, and the other two, regardless of the cheesy and cringy scenes. I feel like that's about it. That's the bulk of the episode. I might have missed some stuff here or there, but that's just the general gist of just my take on the episode. If I missed anything that you thought about this episode, write it in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next video.